Good afternoon. I'm Jim Murphy here at Grow Forward. I'm really happy to introduce everybody to Phyllis Lockett, who's CEO of Leap Innovations here in Chicago. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here, and great to learn more and more about what you're doing and what you've been doing. But you're from Chicago, aren't you?
I am. I'm Chicago born and bred, South Sider.
Uh-huh. And you went to school all the way through?
All the way through.
Uh-huh.
I grew up really all over the city, and I had a set of grandparents in Inglewood, set of grandparents in Roseland. It's where I went to school, actually, and both
In
my
Roseland?
Yeah, part of my 6th through 8th grade.
Where'd you go in Roseland?
I went to Wendell Smith Elementary School. And then Lindblom in Inglewood. Both of my parents grew up in Chicago. Were former Chicago public school teachers. So yeah, this has been my life.
Do you have any thoughts on your favorite high schools in Chicago that prepare young men and women to be engineers?
Well, at the time, you know, so I'm dating myself, but there were three selective enrollment high schools around when I was in high school in Chicago. So Whitney Young, Lindblom, and Lane Tech. So, you know, Lindblom and Lane Tech were really known for, you know, the technical, you know, more STEM heavy focused schools. So those were the ones, but we've got a lot of great high schools now in Chicago.
Right.
A lot of, you know, our selective enrollment high schools are among the best performing in the state.
Right.
So I think we're way ahead of where we were when I was coming through.
I also noticed you went and got yourself an MBA. Was that right out of college, or did you go to work for a while?
No, I went to, you know, I interned at IBM in Chicago. And so I came back to Chicago, and actually my mom was dying of cancer, and so she and my dad married for 32 years. So I was really fortunate that I had that opportunity with an internship at IBM. They gave me a job offer, so I came back to Chicago to help my dad and my mom's transition, actually. And so I lived with my dad. Like most kids, like graduate from college and get out. I went back home. I did the opposite. I went back home, and my dad and I took care of each other for about 4 years. And then I was really fortunate. I got a full ride to go get my MBA at Kellogg, and so I did that.
And what was your focus there?
Marketing. Yeah, really interested in marketing, and you know, I was a marketing rep at IBM, sold large systems, you know, in the distribution area for IBM, like True Value Hardware Store, and lots of folks that were really trying to upgrade their systems to be more automated and innovative at the time. And so I wanted to, you know, what I wanted to do was think about how I could get ahead of that sales cycle. You know, I was already selling somebody else's product idea. I wanted to come up with the product ideas.
So at some point in time, you decided to make a change out of that, right?
Yeah,
Your career
I sure
sounded like
did.
it was going pretty well, and you decided to make a switch. What happened there?
Yeah, you know, so it's interesting. So when I moved back from Minneapolis to Chicago, you know, I kind of had one of those reckonings where I moved back home, and I'm, you know, go back to the communities where I grew up. And it was one of those moments of, was it this bad when I was growing up, or has it gotten worse? And honestly, I think it was a combination of the two. And you know, I was started to get involved in programs. I got on the board of City Year. I got on the board of a wonderful program called the Abraham Lincoln Center, working on a big welfare to work project. And honestly, you know, I fell in love with that work. It just felt much more gratifying to me than helping Kraft come up with their next cheese product. Call me crazy. So I actually, you know, talked to some friends, and met some folks who work for the city of Chicago, and decided to leave Kraft and go work for the city of Chicago for a year. And folks, you know, stopped me in my tracks and said, "What are you doing?" You know, my dad thought I was nuts.
Right.
But, you know, it was, I just really wanted to figure out how I could leverage my education background and my business background to make an impact in some way. So I
And
took
that
the leap.
first organization, what was it, something Alliance, or?
Yeah, you know
Civic?
what? So I ended up, yeah, I went to the city of Chicago for about a year, and then I went to what's now called the Civic Consulting Alliance. So it was an amazing opportunity, because the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago, right,
okay,
which basically
sure.
is an extraordinary organization here, had a subsidiary group called, it was called FRAC at the time, Financial Research and Advisory Committee. And this group was really focused on, you know, identifying business solutions to bring into city government, so city government could operate more efficiently. So I worked on really big projects. Like, when I came on, worked on CTA's $2.8 billion capital improvement program. I worked on CHA's, Chicago Housing Authorities, their $1.5 billion plan for transformation. It's the largest housing reorganization in the country. And I ended up getting the heads of McKinsey and Booz Allen and Bain and others on my board. And I hired burnt out MBAs like me that wanted to make a difference. And we worked on some really great projects with Mayor Daley and his team at the City of Chicago. And I changed the name. It was named years ago. We changed the name to Civic Consulting Alliance.
They needed a branding person, marketing person, come up with a better name.
There you go. That's what I did. And in fact, I renamed the organization and then I left to start New Schools for Chicago.
Okay. So that was in the early 2000s that you moved down to New Schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. And tell everybody about that and what was the push there?
Was
was Arnie Duncan kind of put that together?
Yeah, it was Arnie Duncan and Mayor Daley, the head of the Civic Committee at the time, Eden Martin. They, put together this really big plan to create 100 new schools throughout Chicago. And I was still running. Fracker was now CCA. And they had this big announcement, and it was I think, a substantial effort to pull off. And I was asked to come in and help advise. And, honestly, I found myself as the only former Chicago Public School student involved in the work. And, they asked me to come in and step in to run it. So that's what I did.
So when that began, was that heavily focused on the charter school movement in the beginning?
Yeah, it was very much. Charter schools as well as traditional schools that were doing well. We had a number of traditional public schools that were phenomenal as well. In fact, I helped to build the replication for the first magnet school in Chicago, Disney Magnet. I helped to replicate that, but we helped to work with a number of these extraordinary leaders throughout our city to establish 13 charter school networks. So, really all of the charters that exist now have been able to get to scale is really due to a lot of that work.
That's really interesting. That was very valuable work back
Yeah.
then, because a lot of them, the early charters were a little bit kind of held together with bubble gum and string.
Well, you were involved in a lot of that. You were one of the trailblazers, right?
Yeah,
in that effort, and but I think for me, just again, up close and personal, as a person who grew up on the South Side, who went to school, in Inglewood and Roseland and Chatham, who could see personally the difference between kids who look like me getting access to a high quality school versus kids who didn't. This for me was really about how do we create high quality schools throughout our city. So it truly was the most gratifying work I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of.
How important is the concept of a neighborhood school in the future of education? Is it an important concept, or is it more important that kids can kind of pick and choose as families where to go?
Yeah, so it's really interesting in this context and thinking about a neighborhood school. I mean, I certainly believe that every neighborhood deserves a high quality school, but I think the geographic base of how we think about school is going to look very, very different, and has to in the future. I think this notion that the students that we're developing today, and their ability to be competitive in the future, that they're going to source all of the learning that they need within the four walls of a classroom in a neighborhood is a little short-sighted, right? I mean, we really need to be thinking about some broader pathways of access to knowledge and skills development very differently than we did in the past in the way that you and I went to school.
I kind of draw an analogy occasionally that a strategy for making the U.S. Post Office competitive again would be to build more post offices. And I don't know that would work.
I don't think that's a sustainable answer.
I don't think it's a sustainable answer.
I don't think it's a sustainable answer. I mean, I think for me, and this is part of the reason why I pivoted out of the New Schools work to start Leap Innovations, is because this whole paradigm of one size fits all and thinking about how school has been since the turn of the century, I think needs to dramatically shift, right? I mean, we look at the majority of students that are in our elementary schools will have jobs that don't exist yet. And so we really have to rethink the kind of skills development and learning experiences and opportunities that we're creating for students. And that's kind of anchored in what we call our Leap Learning Framework for personalized learning, which is, which is about student pathways.
So let's go into that.
Yeah.
Let's see how, let's talk, pick a school, any school,
Yeah.
and tell us how you go in there with your program and implement it.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I'll pick CICS West Belden, since I know
Okay.
you're very familiar with that model, because you helped to start it. We worked with Beldens on the northwest side in the West Belden community. Phenomenal group of leaders there. High poverty community and school. And but they really wanted to increase the engagement and increase the performance of the students in the school. And so we worked with that team to help them redesign and restructure the whole construct around, honestly, what school means. And for us, it really comes down to how are you tailoring to the needs of every single student every single day. Most of our schools in Chicago have 6 to 7 performance levels within one classroom. So the notion that one teacher can teach to the needs of every single student is an impossibility. What happens is inevitably, it's teach to the middle. Kids that are further along, disengaged, kids who need more help get left behind. So the restructuring around all this is first working with the educators to help them understand that, one, they're not really tailoring or differentiating learning at the level needed in order to tailor learning to every single student. And then restructure the design of the classroom, the scheduling of the day. You'll walk into a school like Belden, you'll see grade levels within multiple grade levels within one classroom. Teacher teams working together, all kind of anchored in a personalized learning pathway for every single student, tailored to their needs, interests, and strengths. Students that are we call it learner-led, that are getting their agency and having the autonomy to kind of co-design and partner with their educator toward their goals. Every single student has their pathway, and so you'll see students self-navigating like you would in college. They know where they're supposed to be. There are multiple modalities across.
Let's go back a
Yeah.
step. You said something that interests me, and I haven't been in the school for
Yeah.
a long time. So
Yeah.
you said multiple classes in one classroom with multiple instructors.
Yeah.
Are they in rooms based on ability instead of age?
Yeah,
Is that kind of what they are? So they're a little bit closer together in ability?
They're closer together in ability, because ability is jagged, right? I mean, the proficiency level, where a second grader could be on, a third grade strand in one aspect of reading, but they could be, operating at first grade, on a different strand. And the point is that a student has the ability to operate across a wider range of mastery.
That's a good idea.
Right? Instead of pigeonholing kids
They could be
into
in math
one
class.
specific thing.
They could be in first grade. In reading, they could be in third grade.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
And that's okay. And that's the point. And and it doesn't make them
And you
less
do that by
appropriate.
testing?
They
They take a test, and then you kind of know where they are?
They do it by informing more specific knowledge and information about every single student. Some of that is informed by tests, some of it is informed by the best way the student learns. Some is informed about their context, what they're grappling or dealing with at home, where their interests lie. So a lot of these inputs are created to develop these tailored pathways for every single student. And the beauty is for the educator, so you'll get a classroom, say their first through third grade reading levels within one classroom. The teachers, first, second, and third grade teachers are collaborating, and they're working together to troubleshoot and to support each other and to double down with the student based on where their needs are. So it really truly is a dynamic way of how education is going to be and look like. I really think in the future grade levels are going to be irrelevant. It really is about what you know.
You know, one of the things that was stunning to me that I learned in the charter school movement was how when you test a kid when they're in kindergarten, sometimes they can be 2 grades behind already.
Yeah.
I have
Exactly.
a grandson now in kindergarten, and he's ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come into the kindergarten, they're already behind, and you
Yeah.
say to yourself, "How can that be?" You know, and so consequently, you have to have this. It sounds like you probably have to have this individual learning in place right at the beginning.
At the very start, and that's where, I mean, we're starting from, you know, kindergarten. We're also involved up to high school at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's going to look a little different depending on the on you know, the set of grades, but you know, you'll see combined classrooms, you'll see students you know, navigating through different learning modalities. Sometimes they're working together as a group, sometimes they're one-on-one with a teacher, sometimes they're doing some small group instruction, sometimes they're independent. It really depends on what their needs are at that time, but it's a much more engaging way. You know, I've taken a number of folks to see our schools, and you know, the level of engagement and the level of understanding that a student has in terms of where they are and what they need to work on is palpable. And you know, that kind of agency and confidence and self-directedness is about that learning agility that you're going to need in order to be masterful in a more ambiguous future.
I was noticing that you have a very impressive staff at Leap Innovations.
I
A lot of
do.
impressive people,
Yeah.
great resumes. I'm thinking that when you get a new school, you're heavy in that school the first year. You're there a lot, and
Yeah.
can you pull back a little bit then and put your resources in the new schools later and keep that program going?
Yeah, so you know, the way we structured it to, you know, help ensure sustainability, it starts with about 6 months of professional development training with the principal. So the teachers are co-designing with the principal to go through a design process, and it's very intentional and very intense. Over the course of a year, that team is going through implementation, and our team is there twice a month doing job-embedded coaching and training. And then what happens is, in most cases, those school teams are coming back for second year, third year, until the full school is transformed. But what we found is that because this is not like this isolated incident of like one teacher kind of learning this on their own and then kind of left to their own devices to kind of get support back at their home school, it's a teacher team concept that really supports the kind of change management that is necessary to make these changes sustainable and these approaches sustainable. And it's grown. I mean, you know, the demand has grown so much. In Chicago, we've worked with about 140 schools. Chicago Public Schools has created a department for personalized learning because so many educators and schools are saying they need this, and this is really the way they need to go. And I've got 30-year veteran teachers telling me that they will never go back to the old way of teaching again.
That's wonderful. So talk a little bit about your funding. Do you do development work where you get charitable donations
Yeah,
as well as public funding?
Yeah, we get both. We actually been, you know, just incredible benefactors of the Gates Foundation, CZI, the Dale Foundation, a lot of the local foundations here, Pritzker, Crown, Joyce Foundation. You know, just we have an incredibly generous philanthropic community in Chicago that has been supportive of our work.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
And what percentage comes from private versus public of your funding?
It's pretty small. I mean, you know, I'd say our public funding is, you know, probably 5%.
Oh, public's small.
Yeah,
Private's-
yeah.
Okay, that's
Because our public, you know, and again, we're a nonprofit, and we structured this in a way where schools have to put skin in the game. We
Right.
thought that was pretty important, but we
Right.
do a lot of work supplementing the balance.
right. Yeah, that's my viewers would love the fact that you're privately funded. That's
Yes.
why I wanted to get that out. I didn't
Oh,
think
yeah.
it was the other way around.
Yeah.
So you do work with all kinds of schools, though, not just CPS
We do.
schools,
We work
charters.
with
Do you work-
charters. Of course, we have amongst the largest segment of charters in the country. We've got the largest archdiocese school system in the country, so we're involved in the archdiocese, and then we're working with a number of the collar suburbs as well. So, you know, Oak Park and Hawthorne, as an example.
Is there a program, and I ask this because my daughter is a principal of a special needs school up in Northbrook.
Yeah.
Is there a program that works with special needs kids?
We have a number of special needs students in our portfolio.
Right.
And what's really, again, important about all this is that, you know, every student, you know, is targeted, and every student is supported in a way where the special needs population in our models are, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, to be honest with you, because every student has their own personalized learning pathway. So it's been a wonderful way of getting some of the special needs student population into the mainstream classroom versus being, you know, having this isolated student experience.
Okay. So in your work in these schools, what other organizations do you see that, besides the ones you and I have been involved with, do you see they're doing good work? What other privately funded organizations you come across in your work in these schools that you think is doing good work?
In Chicago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have so many.
Name a couple.
Oh my gosh. So, so I'm gonna. Can I say the Daniel Murphy Fund?
No, we're not doing that. We're not.
All right, it's amazing. You guys have been so
these
great.
People already know that I do that. The ones that are watching. Thank you.
No, but Chicago Scholars is another one that
Tell us
I'm
about
deeply.
because you're on the board of Chicago Scholars.
I am on the board of Chicago Scholars, but I think they took a chapter out of your book.
They
but
did,
at the college level
Right,
again,
right.
same strategy. You know, working with juniors and seniors and. You know, partnering with them deeply to get them through the FASB application, get them through the college process. You know, most of the students are first-generation students,
Right.
or college students, and you know, to have that day where you get the on-site with you got universities from all over the country
Right.
coming here, meeting these students, and they've got full ride scholarships and acceptances on the same day.
Who's the founder of that again?
It's amazing.
Who's the founder?
Well, Tim Shortfigger was one of the
New
key
deal.
people
New
who,
deal.
and Tim is a founding board member of Leap Innovations.
There you go.
So he has had his imprint on so many things in our city.
Well, it's great. I mean, there's a lot of reason with organizations like yours to have hope that, you know, these things can get better here in Chicago, and things are getting better. Sometimes our viewers get a little overwhelmed with negativity.
Yeah, we have a lot of great things going on in Chicago, and I will say this because I know, you know, just being in the trenches now for almost 15 years in education reform. You know, I do believe this is the future. And Chicago's leading. I mean, this is part of the reason why we've gotten such a big investment nationally in Chicago, because we are the largest urban demonstration site for personalized learning in the country. And we are really driving a lot of this work through research, through, we have double-digit gains over the district's improvement in literacy. And so we are really showing that this work can really drive trajectory growth for students and position our students for the future.
Great. Well, congratulations.
Thank
You're really
you.
doing wonderful stuff, and I'm really glad we were able to bring this to a few people that watch us on this, and to see that there is reason for great hope, and your program is one of them.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me.